is directing the mother to go to Meher Baba, writing, automatic writing and all that. So when Baba was with us, he always used to dissuade us from dabbling into such things. And he would stop somebody who had come to Baba and he would say that, well, I'm doing this, is it all right for me, it helps me and all that, to get the answer. I says, no, don't dabble in that, just stop it, stop it, stop it. So the wonderful thing is that which he did not want us to make use of, he used it in order to bring the family to him. So from that, a thought had come to my mind, and how true it is that Baba always used to bring home to us that do as I tell you to do, but don't do as I do. You see? He may utilize any instrument for his purpose, anything that he wants to, just as he used drugs. Means he used drugs into bringing drug addicts to him. See, at the time when the drug season was on, in the 60s and all that, so many people came through the drugs, came to hear about him. You know what I mean? Through marijuana and LSD and other things. The drug scene was there in the 60s. So many people came. Does that mean that people came to him that we should continue to take drugs? No. He used drugs in order to bring them. But that doesn't mean that we should use drugs. He can use anything for his purpose he wants to. That's what I was saying.
Eric, I've heard of a situation where somebody had a vision of Baba after an automobile accident. So that doesn't mean people should have automobile accidents.
That's right. Yeah. That they will never use it.
It'll never catch on.
Yeah, never catch on. So, James, I have been hearing that you are here, you are here, you are here. This is
first chance I've had to come.
Poor fellow, so busy. When will you be? When will you relax, James?
No, I'm relaxed, but I couldn't tear myself away from the house with so much going on. Last Tuesday we were waiting for Galen. He didn't arrive until about 4:30 in the afternoon, so we stuck there waiting.
Expecting somebody?
Galen.
Oh, this.
Your sidekick.
So, you may not have heard about another story like that. Years ago there had come. We have been hearing about these ordinary dead people, the two stories that you heard this morning before tea time. So there is another story. These are the ones that we heard are from ordinary people, ordinary householders and sons having died. They are directing their parents to go to Meher Baba. But there is another fantastic story that we came across, you see, of a certain person who had come from the States, America. Years ago he came, a total stranger here. We did not know him. Why I say that total stranger, that as soon as he entered the hall, we said, Jai Baba. And he says, good afternoon. Yeah. So to that degree, he didn't know anything about Baba or anything of that sort. So he came and took his seat somewhere in the corner. And then naturally there was pin drop silence because we could not relate ourselves to a stranger. That is our drawback. But somehow or other we had to say something, isn't it? Yeah. So I started trying to bring out some words from myself. To say, well, when did you arrive? From where have you come? In monosyllables, he is answering, I've just arrived. From where have you come? From the States. How long have you heard of Meher Baba from somebody? So, no, here I said, how long ago you heard of Meher Baba? 15 days. Just that. Monosyllables. So I said, somebody must have told you. He says, yeah. I said, who told you? Yogananda. I said, Yogananda? In the States? He says, yes. And I kept quiet because there are so many Yoganandas now and so many Anandas and all that sort of thing. So, well, I started scratching my neck and I said, who is that Yogananda who told you? Haven't you heard the name of Paramahansa Yogananda? I said, yeah, I have heard it, but he died long back. He dropped his body, isn't it? He's no longer here. Yeah, he's the one. I said, you said you heard of him, heard of Meher Baba through him 15 days ago, so how did you happen to hear? Oh, it's a story. I said, yeah, we'd like to hear your story. So that's how he tells us this story, that his parents were staunch followers of Paramahansa Yogananda. Have you heard of Yogananda?
Yes.
Huh?
The Kriya Yoga cultivation.
Yes, that's right.
Kriya Yoga.
So,
he dropped his body in 1952 at Los Angeles.
yeah. So what happened is that my parents are staunch followers of Yogananda. And I was brought up from my childhood as a follower of Yogananda. I was made to love him, to read his life stories and all that sort. So as I grew up, I became more earnest about him, and I longed to see him. I hadn't met him. I wanted to see him physically. And that urge, the drive went to a pitch that there was a real longing created in me. And I longed to see him. 15 days ago, while I was resting in bed in the States, all of a sudden I see him at my bedstead there, standing. And I was so happy to see him, I naturally sat up and looked at him. And I felt within myself that he is not happy to see me. Because I longed to see him and he is there and he is not, he scowled, he made a face like that. He says, he ordered me, I want you to go to Meher Baba. And that's why I've come. That's all. That's the story. And then I tried to find out about Meher Baba, and I got at last I contacted somebody and says, well, if you want to know about Meher Baba, you have to go to India. If you want to, so I said, I want to see him. He says, you can't see him because he is no longer in body. He says, what? But my master tells me to go and see him. He says, yeah, but if you want to, there is his tomb there and there are his people who have lived with him. That much you can do if you want to go to India. So that's why I've come here. So there is another story like that.
When did it happen?
I think, Jack, do you remember this? Jack?
Is that Eric?
So, but there was another person who had come. He was an elderly person, not too old, but yeah. I think it must be about in the late 70s he must have come.
Jack Small told me yesterday that a lot of people have come to Baba through Yogananda.
Yeah.
And Yogananda had said that his mission was to lead people, his disciples or followers, to the feet of the Lord, to the feet of God.
Yeah, that's true. That I don't know anything about it, but this is what happened. And when I told the story to some group that was here, where Eric was there, so then he told me that he is also through Yogananda he has come, and we boys meet together and we were followers of Yogananda and all that. Then he started telling us about the group.
Center also, I got the book of Yoga written by Yogananda himself.
Autobiography. Yogi.
That's very good. No, it's very good.
But then I came across a certain elderly person, I forget now the name, Jack must be knowing. He was the father of, how it is. James, do you know anybody who is closely connected with Yogananda?
No.
It was he who walked with Yogananda, who was there, and he was living with Yogananda. You see, he had come here. And he's the father of another Baba lover. I forget now. Very recently he came. he was seated here also, and he was telling me about it all. And that this present center that is there, at the time, it was not founded at the time. So he was there who led him to that spot and all that, and he then selected and settled down there. Yeah. He is very old, this man, old person was there.
Is he a Babylonian now?
Yeah, he's a Babylonian. See, I forget
There was
his name.
one Mr. Wright, he's a close follower.
Pardon?
One Mr. Wright was there in Los Angeles,
Yeah,
was a close devotee of Yogananda.
yeah.
I've seen his book, reading his book, Yogananda's book.
Mr. Wright.
One Mr. Wright. And then, of course, he has mentioned about several names, but now, at the moment, I am not in a position to recollect.
Does anybody know the Indian follower of Yogananda, an old man who goes around initiating people in Kriya Yoga?
I don't know.
Because I got initiated by him once and I had a tremendous argument with him.
You got
About
initiated in an
Baba.
argument also.
Yeah.
How can that be?
He was saying
What
there was
name
nobody more wonderful as Jesus and this and that. And I started telling him, well, what about Meher Baba, you know? And he started putting Meher Baba down, and I just came up to Baba's defense tremendously. And I had a tremendous argument with him and walked out of his
Where?
initiation.
Where in the States?
In New York City many years ago. 1977, 76.
But how could you be initiated and then you, on the same day?
Same day. I walked out of it.
What name were you given?
I don't even remember.
Jagadananda he must have given you. Jagadananda.
Fighter.
Quarrelsome. No, but when you take initiation, you shouldn't be rude to the person who initiates.
All he had to say was that there could be no comparison whatsoever between Jesus and Meher Baba. And
But
I
how
was
could you
crazy to think
expect? But
that.
how do you expect anybody to say such a thing?
Well, how could he expect me to take initiation from somebody who didn't realize that?
But when you had taken it, then you should have remained subdued.
Well, if you're following Baba, why should you be initiated?
I wasn't following Baba
Oh, I
at that
see.
time.
Did he say, did Eric say you were a priest?
Yes.
For how long?
From the time I entered the seminary till the time I was got permission to lead the priesthood, about 13 years. I'm not telling that story again. That's all been written up in the globe. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. You can read that.
It was a good
I remember
article.
the day you kept pulling that story out of me.
It is good that you did it.
Yeah.
You know, it has served a great purpose. There is a clerk working in our office there. He is from the Salvation Army.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And when you were embracing me, and the way you embraced me, you know, at the office, when was it? Thursday? Last Thursday?
Day before yesterday. Day before Silence Day, the 9th.
Ah, yeah, that is Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So he was just by the through the window. He was observing, and naturally soon after that, I went inside the room, the office room there, not where Mani sits, but that room. So he said, "The gentleman seems to have come after a long time." I said, "No, not long time." He was greeting you and meeting you with much love and affection. I said, "Yeah, but have you heard of him, who he is?" He says, "No." I said, "Then it is better that you read something that is printed in the globe." So what is it? Who is he? He said, "He is Father Flanagan." What? He said, "What did he say?" So then I gave him, and he was reading. When I left the office, he was
reading?
Yeah. But it was a good article that you gave. Very good. All the sides were there. Yeah. An open article, open letter you may call it. It's a beautiful article. You all haven't read it?
I've read it, yes.
He's from Boston. We know. We get it firsthand.
He knew it, but he didn't say anything.
He knew you smoked.
Yeah. And sometimes you'd say that naturally when there'll be long hours of session, you'd say, go and have a puff and come back.
Boy.
Yeah.
Thoughtful.
So I said, no, Baba, it's all right. He said, no, go and come back. Because mind is always in that, you see. So instead of that, it's better to do away with that and come back fresh with one-pointed attention, you see. He wouldn't like any divisions, you see, of attention. He's a jealous one.
In 60s also you had this, early 60s, you had that habit.
Yeah.
But we have seen you hours together with Baba and we used to say, I mean, 60s.
But if you were to see me as Baba used to see me, then you wouldn't say such a thing.
No, for hours together we used to see you.
Yeah, it was there.
Without going out.
That's true. I think...
60, 61,
No,
62,
no,
of
but
course
I-
everybody knows. 63.
I think before,
from
I
that.
forget now which year it was, but I left on. It didn't take much time to leave. It was just an instant. The instant.
You decided yourself to give it a...
No, it was not I who decided. What had happened is, it takes us back to many years ago. You see where Baba is now seated there, in that posture there. There is a place there that is Nariman and Arnavaz's flat called Ashiana. And there is at the back of this side, there is a veranda there. So, Baba and the Mandali are there, staying there for some days. So when Baba goes to retire in the night, I used to have that veranda there, where summer months and Bombay is there, we are people from the rural area, we can't like the city life. So I preferred to be on the veranda there and sleep there and all that. And there, of course, all day, pent-up feelings are there, as you say, and naturally smoke. And smoke is never delightful when there is darkness, when you see the curls of the smoke and all that, then you have greater joy in smoking. You know that, if you are smoking. But in spite of it, of course, naturally, the mind would want to have a lot of smoking done. So I used to smoke there. So one night, I was sitting there. It was not very late in the night. It must be about 9 o'clock, late evening. I was smoking. It was on a chair. I was seated there. And all of a sudden, something jumped on my shoulders, and that was much younger than him. There was that, his name is Merwan Mistry, you know? Merwan Mistry, who is now a surgeon, surgeon. He was a kid at that time. And his life was such, his boyhood was such, that you won't find him without any spots there. Everywhere you'll find him, you see, mercurochrome painted or iodine painted or anything, because he was so active, a young kid, jumping from one chair to another or one sofa, just as when he came on my shoulder all of a sudden, you see. Yeah, it was like that. So I got a shock and looked, and he tells me, seeing the end of the cigarette burning, that little glow, he says, Eruch uncle, you know, Baba doesn't like anybody to smoke like this. So I couldn't say yes or no. If I were to say no, then he will ask, naturally a child will ask, then why do you smoke? So you know how guarded we are when we want to have our own way. So then I looked at him and I said, look, Baba doesn't like this too. See how many spots are there and see what you have done, to yourself. When I find you, that you have mended your ways, then I will also give up smoking. Which was impossible to me at that time, of course. That means I had an escape, a good excuse that I can smoke. So when Baba doesn't like this, and why do you do that? That's how it. Years rolled by, I completely forgot about all this. Everything was forgotten. Who would remember such a thing, you see? It goes on, years are passing by, I continue to smoke. A live chimney, you may call it, you see. And I smoke a lot, I used to smoke a lot. One fine day at Guru Prasad in Pune, years have passed by. and I was busy something, doing my work, writing, whatever Baba had given, I forgot now, whatever it was. I was busy, but in my fingers there is this cigarette there, I smoke and I'm writing and smoke and writing. All of a sudden a voice pipes in, he says, "Yes, uncle." And I look up, and this is Meherwan now, gentleman Meherwan. He says, "Do you know that I have passed my exams, now I'll be going for higher studies and all that?" "Oh," I said. I put my cigarette there and I embraced him and said, "Well, how are you and what are you doing?" and this and that. And then I sat down after having exchanged some news, and then I started smoking again. While I didn't have a puff also, all of a sudden that night dawned upon me. What a change in him. He was fully dressed, you see, in Western clothes and all that. A gentleman here, a polished gentleman, and he's a doctor now. Certainly.
You mean he wasn't jumping from sofa to sofa anymore?
No. He was totally sober. So that very thing affected me, you see. The whole thing became live that night. And said, yeah, I said that when you change your habits, I will stop smoking. And that was the last.
But still one has to have this.
That is how I left.
Determination.
Huh?
One has to have the determination.
But there's perhaps more to the story than what you've told now. You see, the further update to the story is now Meherwan has picked up that chain smoking habit and the guy smokes like a chimney.
Oh, really? That I don't know. What is that? Then what happened? Yeah. Then what happened is that I stopped, of course, because I got that shock, you see. That I had said so, word had come out of my mouth. But I was too shy to let anybody know that I had stopped smoking. Because whatever it is, I don't know, I felt shy about it.
In case it didn't work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it didn't work. It is true. That's why I was shy about it. I was not sure about myself, about my determination or whatever. It was not a determination. It was just a flashback, and all of a sudden.
Impulse.
Yeah, it was an impulse.
No, but having given up, then you must have some determination. Otherwise.
No, I can't say otherwise. I wouldn't have been so shy to let others know. So somebody would offer me cigarette. I said, no, I'm not smoking now. Just not now, and so forth. So again, a couple of months passed by, and we are here now. By the way, whose horn is this all the time? Is there anybody come here? Third or fourth time I'm hearing this. So what happens is that I'm here inside this hall. Baba is seated there, and the Mandli are here. And at that time there used to come a sailor boy. His name was Harry Didolcho.
Oh, Harry Didolcho, yes.
You know him? He used to touch the Calcutta. Yeah, I know.
Saintly personality.
So he used to come here, and he was a sailor boy. Baba's sailor boy. He would be on the seven seas all the time, voyaging. He was working on the ship. So knowing fully well, whenever he would come to India, he would make it a point to be here and be with Baba, even if it be for an hour or so. But being a sailor boy, having touched so many shores, you see, naturally he would collect things for the Mandli here to give. Knowing fully well that I had that liking for smoking, so that day he had come here. And he brought his suitcase naturally. He walked inside. And Harry has come. He would come unannounced. Baba was very happy to see him and all that. And then immediately, naturally he put his suitcase there. And then he is standing here. Baba embraced him and all that. And Baba says, what is this? No, Baba, it's nothing, for a little gift for Mandli. What is it? Open it. So he opened it. It was full of different brands of cigarettes. All from all over the world. And Baba looked at it and he was so happy to see it. And says, so many packets. And he looked at me. what a treasure he has brought. And then I looked at him very shyly, meekly, and I said, but I have stopped smoking. I said, what did he say? He says, I don't smoke anymore. When? Since when? Sometime, some months ago, I stopped smoking. And that was the seal put by Baba. I had to confess to Baba that I had stopped smoking. I couldn't smoke then.
You mean he hadn't noticed?
No, how can we say that he hadn't noticed? But he made
never
me
let on.
say, he never told me to start smoking. He never told me to stop smoking. And he was very happy when somebody brought packets of cigarettes. He says, look, see, he has brought so much for you. I said, I stopped smoking. And that was the seal put. So that's the end of it all. From that day on, I'm confident that I don't smoke, sir. Yeah. That is the thing, no? You want? Yeah, I had forgotten that.
Did you ever have the desire to smoke?
I still have that desire, yeah.
You do?
And not to smoke. Now I am in the subtle planes. When anybody smokes, I sit by its side and I derive the pleasure out of the aroma that I get. I don't have that feeling, you see, that I don't want to smoke, I don't want to have the smell of the smoke. And no, on the contrary, if somebody says you don't smoke, I said, no, you continue to smoke. I like it. He really smokes a lot now?
Yeah.
Why don't you remind him about me? That that rascal made me stop
I think I must
smoking.
have heard this story before, but I've forgotten it. So next time I see him, I'll be seeing him on when Balaji comes on.
You tell him that you told me that he has taken up my job, you see, of smoking.
You got your sanskars.
My sanskar.
Maybe you should start jumping sofa to sofa now.
I should start.
Eric, when you were talking about the apartment in Bombay, it reminded me of a story that I heard you tell years ago. And I wonder if you could repeat it. It's about the time that you saw Baba cry.
Yeah, it is on the same sofa here.
Yeah.
What had happened was that one day we are at Ashiana, and the phone rang. So I picked up the phone. It was a call from Adi here, Adi's office here, informing us that I should inform Baba that Gustaji passed away. Gustaji died here at Meherazad. So naturally I put down the phone and informed Baba about it. And Baba then started remembering Gustaji very endearingly and fondly and all that. And then naturally he remembered him, his old days, how he had come from Sai Baba to him, to Upasni Maharaj, and from Upasni Maharaj to him, and this, and all the hardships that he went through. And while telling us about, reminding us about him, Baba's eyes started watering, and then he said, "Get me a handkerchief." And we could see that he was weeping, and told us to leave the room, and to be wanted to be by himself. That's all. That's what I saw. And then then he clapped again after about a minute or 2 minutes, and then says, "He was indeed my good companion. I'll miss him." Yeah. So for the God-man, the avatar, to shed tears for his loved one is indeed a great blessing.
Do you remember a story you told along with that about the Prophet Muhammad?
Yeah, but that's you want that too? Well, the story leads us to the constant reminders from the God-man. And the reminders are that never be attached, never do this, don't get entangled, don't get yourself involved, and this and that, and all that is there. as usual it is. The grip of Maya is so great that it is very difficult for you all to get yourself disentangled. Why do you get into the clutches? Then you try to disentangle yourself. And it's always the cry of the Lord whenever He comes in our midst. It's the repetition right from the early advents. Whosoever goes through all whatever the remaining literature that we have on their lives and their sayings, we hear that, we read that. And of course Baba, we have heard it too, directly. So at the time of Muhammad, he was saying the same thing and was telling his circle of people who lived with him to be careful about attachments and this and that. What happened was that, I forget now, it was one of the ladies that he had married was an Egyptian or from Greece, I forget now. She was a girl from Egypt, I think it was Egypt. So, and Muhammad had naturally daughters, 2 daughters or something like that. And it is considered, in the Orient it is considered that you should have a male child. And there was no male child. People would tell him and all that. But fortunately through her, there was a male child born. A baby boy. And Muhammad was fondling the child and appeared to be loving as other children would be there. His, Ali's children were there also. He would play with them horsey game, horse with them and all that. Now this baby is born, so he's fondling the baby and child and all that. Some sickness developed and that child died. And there was a lot of uproar in the women's quarter about shrieking and all that sort of thing. And Muhammad inquired, what happened? Says, the baby died, the child has died. So Muhammad called for the child, took him on the lap, and then of course it was a nice, played with the child and all that, and then tears started trickling down on the cheek of the baby from Muhammad. Those who were seated around, naturally men were there, the Mandli, in the minds, the minds started playing. So here is the one who has been telling us that one should not get attached, one shouldn't get involved and this and that. And well, when it comes to this child, he is weeping for the separation now. And Muhammad didn't say anything. Then after 5 minutes or so, he handed over the child to the mother and said, attend to the last rites and finished. Muhammad himself went there and all that. The child was buried and all that. That is in the life story that is there. Now what happens is that after some days, Muhammad knew that was playing upon the minds of his people, his men. So he brought up the subject and he said, I have been telling you all not to get attached, not to get involved and all that. And you must have seen me shedding tears on the departed little bonny child that was there. And you all in your mind must have thought so many things about it. That how I am attached to the child, how I was and how I loved the child and how I feel the separation, and I started weeping. But it's not that. What I want you all to know is that how blessed you all are that you have me. You have the lion's share of my being in your company. In its share, in the child's share was my shedding a couple of tears on him. That was his share, that was his lot. That's all. It was in his lot that a couple of tears be shed on him. In your lot is my company. That is the story. Is that the one that you want to read?
Child was destined only for that mass.
About being in his lot was, at the time, you know that story, Sam, about we went out on a tour and we were deprived of the fruits that we had purchased by the fruit seller. So what had happened is that we were on a tour, must tour, we had gone out, and we were on a regular schedule of fasting for 24 hours and taking meal once a day. So the way that we had to take is that if we were to eat anything that you have eaten, that is the end of it. For 24 hours, nothing more in between. You follow? That was a fast for 24 hours every day. For some days it went on like that. And we are touring, we are exerting, we are getting tired and all that sort of thing. So one morning, early morning, we are at a station somewhere. It is Hubli station. And there we had to change train from broad gauge to meter gauge, and meter gauge to broad gauge now. So we are there at the station. Early morning at about 4:30 we have got down there. And we are this. And we haven't eaten for a long time now. It's past 24 hours now. And then I told Baba, Baba, still there is time. The train is stable over there, but there are not even lights put in the carriages. So let's go and wash our face and all that. So yes, good idea. Come on, let's go. So we go to toilets and wash our faces and all that with Baba. I help Baba and all, and we come back and again sit down. Instead of sitting down, while we are sitting down there on the benches there, Baba says, we should eat now, isn't it? Something should be there. I said, but the stall is not open yet. So, because it was still time for the train. It was a small station at that time. So at last, we hear the clanking of the cup saucers and all that. And you know when the stall opens, how they start dusting the jars and all that. So we look back. I said, Baba, the stall is open. It has opened now. So he said, come on, let's go there. Let's have something. So we all go there. While we are going there, as we approach the stall, we see a young boy dusting the jars and all that. That we had seen it from a distance also, but now we can clearly see it and all that. And it was at a distance. So while we are now at the stall, what we find is the man who seemed to be the owner of the stall. He was in worship, standing there and praying. And praying at whom? It was as big a picture of Baba as this, hanging from the pillar of the station. You know, the station roofs are there and big round pillars are there. So he somehow or other contrived to keep the picture there. And he was praying there. Morning hour, business, before opening the business, he is worshipping the Lord for good business throughout the day. That's the usual thing for the businessman. So he was praying. In the meantime, Baba said, ask the boy. And Baba said that let's have Mosambi first. Means sweet oranges. So I asked him for the price, how much per dozen, and he said 12 annas a dozen. At the time, annas were there. So I says, no, not 12 annas. Tell him to give us 8 annas a dozen, and we'll buy 4 annas worth of 6 oranges we want. So we are bargaining now. I'm bargaining. And the boy says, no, the price is fixed. It is there. So Baba says, no, but we are the first customers. You should give so that you can have good business. And all. Eventually, we wangled our way and we got the boy to accept the thing. For 4 annas, I paid 4 annas and got 6 oranges. And we turn our backs and we go. When we are returning, naturally now Baba says, let us settle down. So we selected a small compartment and we put our luggage there. And I made Baba comfortable there with the 3 mandali. And I took 2 oranges with me for washing under a tap. Clean it and then cut it and offer to Baba. So while I am there, what I see is that somebody has come running towards the compartment where we are seated. And there he started shouting. He says, why did you cheat my little boy, son, this, that and all that. He's saying it loudly. I was just at the time I came there. I said, what do you mean that we cheated your son? Who cheated? We paid for this. What do you mean by that? Are you addressing us? Because we were the only ones in the compartment. Nobody was there. So he says, yes, you took the oranges there. My son told you that it is worth so and so, and you reduced the price and all that. Price is always fixed and all. So Baba is trying to tell me to tell him, bring home to him, make him understand that it's the first bargain. Once we have already purchased, he shouldn't take it back. It's not the thing to be done by a businessman. We tried to persuade him, but no, he was adamant. And says, have it the way that the price is fixed or return the fruit. Baba says return. So we returned the fruit. Yeah, and he paid us 4 annas and that's he went back. And I told Baba that, Baba, if he were to know that you are here and he is depriving you of this after a long fast, he says, it was in his lot that while he was praying to me, I should be standing by his side. That much was in his lot. So what can we do? Yeah. So there is a thing like that. That is in your share, that much and nothing more.
Any information about this M.S. Murthy? He was in Calcutta.
So brilliant. The writing is so brilliant. Apart from the plot and everything, I can understand why Baba really, he was Baba's favorite. So there was a very humorous part in it. And I remembered how Baba had liked it also. And I went, suddenly realized.
Well, didn't Baba himself chuckle at times audibly?
No.
No?
Chuckling, there was no sound.
No sound?
No.
Uh-huh.
Baba has coughed, sneezed, sometimes which is not it's a sound, like coughing or clearing a throat, like that. But no, there was never words.
Let's come. Luck, chuckle, no chuckle.
In fact, during his accident, a terrible accident in 1952, which is the first we experienced, Baba didn't even make a sound. The doctor, Dr. Burleson, was simply amazed, overwhelmed with the fact, because he said it to Sarosh and the others, that he could not understand. It was incredible. He couldn't believe it. That through all that pain, all that suffering, not sound had been uttered. Sound in pain. It's extraordinary how that doctor received Baba's light reflected through us, the ones around him. He couldn't have a glimpse of Baba divinity, but he had it reflected from the others. And about Baba, he was a great, great person in any case. And sometimes it's very, not only interesting, but delightful to know from a person who has not been touched by Baba's love, who's not what we call a Baba lover. And when they describe how Baba looked to them when they saw him, it's really fascinating. I still remember there was this doctor. You see, Baba had given an opportunity to many to see him even in the non-lover status, and doctors were among them. Baba had an appointment with a doctor, and the doctor might someday have an appointment with God in some next time when he comes. Anyway, when Baba went to Ahmednagar, because the doctor had been called by Adi and he was there, the doctor was not a Baba lover, never became a Baba lover. But he said that when he saw Meher Baba walk into the compound,
come inside,
through the gates,
and come inside,
through the gates of what we call Meher Nazar now, that he saw, he thought a heavenly being was walking in. He said it was so ethereal, like from the heavens. What is this? And yet Baba then covered himself, didn't allow him to see more than that. But even the non-involved ones would see Baba not just as an ordinary human being, but as an angelic being. Talking about that reminds me of a thought I had the other day. I think it was on Silence Day. How Baba answers one questions or even one's thoughts a long time after it has manifested in words or in thought, and you get the answer. And I remember one thing was that in the earlier times, or in our blue bus travels, wherever we were, but it was bath time for Baba's bath time. Like everything else, each one had an opportunity to serve. And so we would all go in a sort of a procession with Baba into the bathroom, big bathroom. Here is Mera seeing to his personal clothes and seeing everything is put in order and right, and the soap, and Meru seeing that the water is in the pails, and this is the hot water, and this is the cool water, and this has to be mixed. And Naja, of course, in the kitchen, seeing that the food is hot and ready when Baba comes out from the bath and to serve, and we along with it. I still remember always when Baba would remove his sadra and it would be put aside, and we would surreptitiously take it out just to bury your face in it, and that fragrance which is only Baba, like soft roses, just like his body was like that. The gentleness, the softness, and yet the majesty of it. It was like a rose, a soft pink rose, and it was like a brilliant sun that glowed through all that. So anyway, Baba would remove his sadra and all, but he'd have his silk shorts on. In the meantime, we're each doing everything. Baba would be seated and all, and then Baba would say, "Now go." So we women would all troop out. And then I would say to myself when the bathroom door was closed, and I said, "Now the angels will take over. Now is the turn of the angels." I couldn't imagine how how it could be otherwise. That God on earth, as the angels would do. Now that was years and years and years ago. Then, in latter period of Baba's life with us, actually then even our routines were changing, because Baba's body was not supporting him to that extent as before. That energy, that walking, he had not pampered his body for his sake.